Hello English 345 students, welcome to week 3 of our class. Of course, you've just wrapped up the first module, the module about thinking about linguistics, learning about the foundational concepts of linguistics. So I hope you're ready now to move on to some fun stuff. We're going to be getting into the sound system of language this week. But before we do that, it's always a great habit to start off your week by clicking on course information off on the left side here. We'll go ahead and download the course calendar and take a look at all the good, exciting things we have coming up for this week. Okay, so going into week 3, you'll see that we're moving on to a new module folder now. We're going into module 2, and it's all about the sound system of language, how human beings produce sounds and therefore produce or speak languages based on those sounds. So you'll have 3 activities to work on this week, assignments 2.1 through 2.3. Notice that we'll stay in Module 2 next week all the way through 2.7. And I do also want you to look ahead to Module 5, or not Module 5, but Week 5, Module 3. You'll notice that the research project proposal is coming up in Week 5. I know it's 2 weeks away, but I do definitely want to mention that to you. And we'll take a little sneak peek into the Module 3 folder just so you'll see where all the materials for the research project are located, and you can go ahead and take a look at it if you want to this week. All right, so let's head back to Blackboard into our course modules area. And we'll scroll down here. And let's just do a super quick review of what you learned about this week. So when we go down to assignments 1.4 through 1.6, this week you learned about the shared mental grammar, and that really kind of includes all the components that we need as human beings to be able to communicate with each other. We have a sound system, okay? In different languages, we share a set of sounds that everybody recognizes and everybody learns to produce from the time they're little babies. Little babies, if you listen to them talk, they can make like every sound. They make the most unusual sounds sometimes. But as the baby grows up and gets older, some of those sounds get dropped. And the sound that the babies then use all the time as they grow up and become children and adults are the sounds of their native language. Our brain doesn't need to keep all those sounds, so we drop the ones we don't need. And that's why when you go and learn a second language and it has a sound that's not in your native language, it's so challenging to be able to pronounce it because you never needed it for your whole life. A great example of that would be when I was trying to learn Arabic years ago, and I had a student from Egypt in an English class, and I was trying to pronounce some words for him, and he just kind of giggled at me. He said, "You sound like a 4-year-old." And he meant it in a nice way. It wasn't meant to make fun or anything, and I definitely didn't take it that way. But it's amazing how your brain filters out what you don't need, and it retains what you do need. So it's one of the challenges of learning a second language, but it's a challenge I personally really enjoy. Other areas of the mental grammar: morphology, the way we put words together, the pieces of words, prefixes, suffixes, all together called affixes. We're going to learn more about that when we move on to Module 3. Semantics, pragmatics, the meaning of words, how we behave with each other in social contexts. Syntax, how the words of a sentence are put together to form a grammatical sentence that we can all understand. So there are many aspects of the mental grammar, and this is an important foundational concept before we move forward. Creativity and generativity. I hope you had lots of fun thinking about untranslatable words. I hope you found the Purple Rain article interesting. I find it kind of fascinating that even though we don't have individual words for every concept in every language, we can always describe them. And that's the creative aspect of our language, is that we can always find ways to express a concept, even if we don't have the exact single word to do that. And that goes for every language spoken on the earth. Generativity, we can produce new sentences, unique sentences that nobody else has ever said, and we all understand each other. It's amazing. And then finally, in the fundamental properties of language, You learned a little bit more about what linguists mean about grammar. Grammar isn't just the prescriptive rules that everybody is supposed to follow according to a grammar book. It's really the grammar of our language, the word order, the structure of our language is another thing that allows us to understand each other. You also learned in 1.6 that linguists consider all languages and dialects valid. They all function to help linguistic communities communicate with each other. They all achieve their goals of doing that. And that the value judgments that we sometimes put on different languages and dialects are really just a matter of taste. That's what you learned about in the Harvey Daniels article, 9 Ideas About Language, last week. Okay, so now it's going to get really fun. All right, we're going to go back to course modules, and now we're going to move into module 2. So, articulatory phonetics, producing and transcribing speech sounds. This week, you're going to focus on the producing part of speech sounds. Next week, you'll focus more on the transcribing aspect of speech sounds. So for now, let's look just at the production part. Okay, so assignment 2.1. I think you'll really enjoy this one. It's one that brings back memories of my own days as a graduate student when I was studying TESOL, which is teaching English to speakers of other languages. I took a phonetics class as a graduate student. We focused a whole semester just on phonetics. And this is a song that my professor introduced to us to help us understand this concept of different sounds in different languages. So for assignment 2.1, you're going to get to listen to a song by Miriam Makeba. She is a singer from South Africa. She's since passed away, but you'll get to listen to a really great song by her. And you're going to be listening for some specific sounds in that song. So you'll enjoy doing that. I've also given to you a document here that you can open up as you listen to the song. It has a translation of what she says before she sings the song, which is in French. And so she was multilingual too. In addition to the song she's singing in, she also is giving a concert. I believe it was in France, or maybe it may have been an African country. So that will help you understand what she's singing about. The second resource that you'll need to listen to for this assignment is an interview with Trevor Noah. You might know him from The Daily Show. He's also a speaker of the same language that Miriam Makeba speaks. They both have origins in South Africa. So your task is, after watching these videos, post a response in the discussion forum to these questions. So when you first listened to the click song, which new speech sounds did you notice? What else did you learn after listening to Trevor Noah's explanation of click sounds? So you'll hear something in the song and you'll hear something from the interview with Trevor Noah. What do these two videos tell you about the variety of speech sounds human beings can produce? You'll definitely learn something there. Think about a second language you have studied. Okay, so if you've learned Spanish, for example, the R's might be really difficult. The rolled R, like rojo, or nasal vowels, like in the word comment, for example. So describe your experience learning these sounds. Easy, difficult? What was your experience like? And this will come in handy because later in the semester, in the last module, we'll learn about first and second language acquisition. So you'll kind of set the stage for that coming later on. And then make sure you reply to 2 classmates and comment on their experiences with pronunciation in second languages. Think back to the story I just told about learning Arabic and how my student commented on my pronunciation of sounds in that language. So think about experiences that you've had. You can share those kinds of stories. Whenever I put something called further exploration in any of the module folders, these are not required assignments, but if you want to just check it out for fun, check it out for fun. So I found this video of how to pronounce click sounds, and it comes from, I really can't pronounce it, the XHOSA, I think is Kosa, something like that. This is the language that Miriam Makeba speaks. It's one of Trevor Noah's native languages. And the speaker in this video will actually give you a little tutorial on how to say click sounds. It's kind of fun. Try it, see if you're good at it. You can even mention it in the discussion forum assignment above if you want to share a second language learning experience. Okay, in assignment 2.2, you'll go back to Essentials of Linguistics, the online textbook that we're using for a lot of assignments in this course. And you'll read section 2.1, how humans produce speech. And here you'll start to explore what the vocal tract does, how we make different sounds. And so you'll click on this link once you're finished with the reading and answer some questions in a quiz. There's also a video, a second video that's embedded in that quiz that explains the difference between what you see here in further exploration, ingressive and egressive pulmonic sounds. It sounds complicated, but it's really pretty simple. An egressive pulmonic sound, pulmonic relates to the lungs. Egressive just means it's going out. And that's the majority of sounds we make in most languages, English included among those. The speaker in that extra video in 2.2 also talks about ingressive sounds. And I've given you just a little chart here from the International Phonetic Alphabet. You'll learn more about the International Phonetic Alphabet next week. This is just a little sneak peek. So ingressive sounds are sounds that we produce by sucking air in instead of pushing it out. It might sound a little strange, but there are languages that have sounds with this kind of ingressive air drawing in kind of process. A great example from our everyday life, maybe it's not a sound in our language, but if you see somebody get hurt or you see something like really kind of shocking and upsetting, you might say, that's an ingressive sound. But many languages or some languages do that and produce a sound at the same time, which is really interesting. So the video in assignment 2.2 that's embedded into that assignment will talk a little bit more about that. And you can actually go and click on this link for the IPA and listen to these sounds. You can hear some of these ingressive pulmonic sounds. And that's a further exploration, so that's not something you have to do. You just can if you want to. In assignment 2.3, that's your final assignment for this week, you're going to learn all about the vocal tract. So you might feel more like you're in an anatomy class this week than an English or linguistics class. But to know how humans produce sounds, you need to know what parts of the body, what part of the vocal tract they use to do that. So after assignment 2.2, where you've learned about the basics of how humans produce speech sounds, then you'll learn the anatomy of how they do that. So first, you'll learn about the parts of the vocal tract by studying the labeled diagram and watching the video that explains the function of each part. So there's kind of a fun video here called The Vocal Tract, a jaunty, lighthearted tour, if you can call it that. But I think the speaker in the video does a good job of breaking it down and making it easy for you to understand. So once you have studied the diagram and you feel pretty confident that you know the different parts of the vocal tract, the video has already explained to you what they all are and what their purpose is, then you'll take an interactive quiz. So I'll open this up for you. And when you click directly on the links within the course, it will take you to this page where you have to click on yet another link. Sometimes an even easier way to do this is just to right-click on it and then open it in another tab. That way you don't have to do an extra click. So what this quiz is it asks you to identify the different parts of the vocal tract. And so you'll have the chance to kind of match up the different parts of the vocal tract. Like you'll get the name here, uvula, and then you'll have to click on here and you'll know you got it right because it's going to give you that little orange symbol. The alveolar ridge is this one right here. Oh, so I didn't get that one right, the first one. So the alveolar ridge would be this green one, and you know that you got that one right. So you'll go through this and try out all of them until you're pretty confident that you know all the different parts of the vocal tract. Going back over to Blackboard, all you have to do is take a screenshot of your results, submit them at the link above. So just click on 2.3 for the vocal tract, and you can upload a screenshot, you can paste it into a Word document, and just let me know what your results were. And if your results are not as perfect as you would like them to be, you don't have to have 100%, but you'll know from the percentage that you get on that if you need to study more, to know more about the vocal tract. All of these assignments that we do throughout the semester are basically preparing you for the final exam that comes at the end. So the more you get correct now on these different activities and quizzes, the better prepared you are when the final exam comes up. The final exam will include material that we'll take from all the different modules. Okay, and actually I was correct about the uvula. It is that. So I'll have to go back and try that quiz again. Okay, the other further exploration resource that you have here is the pink trombone. So if you want to see the vocal tract in action, I've included a link to this speech synthesis tool, and it's basically kind of a fun way to play with the vocal tract in an interactive way. So this is just an image of it, but if you click here, it'll actually take you to the link itself where you can play with the vocal tract a little bit. So yeah, it makes some really crazy sounds. So I'm moving up the tongue, here I'm moving the lips, here I'm kind of playing with the throat cavity. There's lots of different things you can do with that. A good way to experiment with it is to take a look at this video where the person using this mobile version of pink trombone actually manipulates the different parts to be able to like make almost like speech sounds or sung kind of vowels. It's pretty interesting. So if you feel like playing with that, of finding out a little bit more about the vocal tract and how we make sounds, this is a great resource to do that. Once again, it is a further exploration source, so you don't have to do it. It's just for fun. Okay, so that would be assignments 2.1, 2.2, and 2.3. That takes you through everything this week. I hope you have fun learning about how humans produce speech, and I look forward to seeing all your great work this week.